Welcome to Too Fond of Books. My name is Janelle and this is a page to screen video. In this series, I just like to talk about an adaptation that's been made from a book to either TV or film, movies, and let you know my impressions of how the adaptation was filmed compared to the book, whether they staged true to the plot, that kind of thing. And for today's page to screen, I want to talk about Why Didn't They Ask Evans? This is a new adaptation that's just come out this year, and I recently watched it on BritBox. Released in the US as The Boomerang Clue, Why Didn't They Ask Evans is an Agatha Christie adventure mystery published in 1934. Bobby Jones is playing golf with Dr. Thomas when he hears a scream. Checking the cliffs at the edge of the golf course on the coast of Wales, he sees a man who appears to have fallen and landed on a ledge far below. Bobby waits with the man while Dr. Thomas goes for help, and the last and only words the man speaks before he dies are, "Why didn't they ask Evans?" Those words set Bobby off on an adventure with Frankie, Lady Frances Derwent. Partway through the book, Frankie says, "We're in the middle of someone else's story." To which Bobby responds, "I should call it a play rather than a book. It's as though we'd walked onto the stage in the middle of the second act, and we haven't really got parts in the play at all, but we have to pretend. And what makes it so frightfully hard is that we haven't the faintest idea what the first act was about." I thought that was a great description of Frankie and Bobby's role in this story. I love this book. It is one of my favorites. It's one of my favorite of her adventure stories, her adventure mysteries for sure. And I recently watched the miniseries that Hugh Laurie wrote and directed, and I loved it. Rather than making a movie, he made a miniseries with 3 one-hour episodes, and I thought that that was brilliant because that gave him the time to really delve deep into the story. It has a fantastic cast. Will Poulett plays Bobby Jones, Lucy Boynton as Frankie Derwent, Hugh Laurie as Dr. Nicholson. He couldn't resist putting himself into a role, and it's not a huge role, but he does it brilliantly. Emma Thompson as Lady Marcham and Jim Broadbent as Lord Marcham. Now, Emma Thompson and Jim Broadbent, brilliant. That was some brilliant casting, and they're only in one scene, but what a scene. They steal the show. I love those two as actors, and it was such a great scene. So what were my initial impressions of this adaptation? I thought that it was well paced. The story was well paced. It had a great look. The filming of it as a whole, the settings and the locations and the costumes, it had a great look to it. And it had spot on performances. I really loved how the cast played their characters. There are always going to be changes when you adapt a book to film, and I was okay with the ones that Hugh Laurie made. There was one, however, that doesn't make sense to me, and I want to talk about it. So I'm going to put a spoiler here on the screen for a minute. If you haven't read the book or seen the adaptation yet, you may want to fast forward until you don't see spoiler on the screen anymore. So you've been warned, spoiler time. Okay, so a couple of small changes. Bobby getting poisoned at a carnival. That is a small change to the story, but it's a big scene, and it was way more visually interesting than Bobby getting poisoned alone in a field. It's a key part in the book. You have to do it, and I can understand why Hugh Laurie decided to go big and change it to this carnival scene. It was just way more visually interesting than Bobby alone in a field. The other small change is in the book, he has a friend called Badger that he is going to go into business with. In the movie, or in the miniseries, Hugh Laurie changes the character's name to Knocker. Now, both of these are just nicknames anyways, but that's all he is called. And this is one that I don't understand. I don't understand what was wrong with Badger. Is there something offensive about that nickname that I just don't know? I'm not sure, but they change it to Knocker. And so it's an interesting thing because the rest of the characters all have the same names. So I thought that was interesting. There were some expanded roles that I thought were brilliant. Knocker is introduced earlier in the adaptation and given a much bigger role in a very good way. In the book, we mostly hear about Knocker through Bobby, and we learn that he is kind of really bumbling and inept. When he shows up in the book to rescue Frankie and Bobby, it feels a little bit like Deus Ex Machina. We haven't seen him a lot, and he just kind of shows up and he saves them. With his expanded role in the adaptation and his change to a far more competent person, his rescue makes more sense and is very satisfying. So that's an expanded role that I totally approve of in the adaptation. The other expanded role is Mr. Angel, or as I called him in the adaptation, the man in the bowler hat. This is another expanded role that works. In the book, his role is actually quite small. He's not introduced until Frankie is well established in the house. In the adaptation, he's lurking around in the background almost from the beginning, and he is very menacing. The additional scene where he shows up at the garage asking Knocker about Bobby is also fantastic. So, that's another expanded role that I thought was brilliant. Here's the bit that I didn't understand. This is a change made in the adaptation that I don't know why, and that's Dr. Thomas. In the adaptation, it's implied that Mr. Angel kills Dr. Thomas, making it look like suicide. This does not happen in the book. And the only reason I can see for killing off Dr. Thomas is to give Bobby further motivation to investigate. The problem with that is that Bobby is already plenty motivated. They've tried to kill him, and he's already got enough motivation to continue in the investigation. So this was a change that I didn't really understand, but I was okay with. I just went along with it. But it was a change that didn't really make any sense to me. The ending. There's a slight change to the ending that I found more satisfying than the book. In the book, Moira is caught, but Roger gets away to South America and sends a letter to Frankie with some explanation of what happened, what he did, his role. In the adaptation, both Moira and Roger get caught and brought to justice, and I find that more satisfying as a viewer. I'm just that person with mysteries where I like a good bit of justice at the end. So I did find that change and the ending much more satisfying. So here's my conclusion. Hugh Laurie stayed true to the plot and characters and tone of the book, showing great respect for a great mystery and a great author. So let me know in the comment section down below if you've read Why Didn't They Ask Evans and what your thoughts were about the book. And also let me know if you've seen the adaptation and what you thought of the adaptation and the changes that were made. I would love to talk about it with other people because I really enjoyed my experience of watching Why Didn't They Ask Evans. I'm going to include a link to the trailer in the description below if you've never seen the trailer, and there's also a short video about the making of where they talk to Hugh Laurie. I'm going to include that in the description for you as well if you're curious, and I will see you for another video soon. Bye.